Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome back to the Bucs Banter Podcast. This is our Shaq Masonth episode, or our inverted foreplay episode. Not because Scott and I plan to explore the boundaries of our relationship or anything, at least on the air, but it's because this is, in fact, our 69th installment of the Bucs Banter Podcast. So thank you for joining us, and if you're doing so live, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel on YouTube. If you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other streaming service, please rate and review the podcast, and make sure you check out bucsgameday.com for all of the Bucs content you need in your life. That is the only Sports Illustrated website dedicated specifically to covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Scotty, before we get into this interesting Bucs game, not sure how to phrase it, but before we get into that, I just want to hit on some news so we can kind of get that out of the way.
Absolutely.
Tie up some loose ends. Hope you're doing well.
I am. I saw the email, the link for the episode in my email, and saw that it was the 69th episode, and it was a little bit curious as to where you're going to go. And as always, you exceeded my expectations, pal. And if that's not exploring the boundaries of our relationship, then I don't know what is. So well done.
I like to think I would have exceeded them had we explored the boundaries.
Well, I mean, there's a time and a place.
Yeah,
right?
and this probably isn't it. This probably isn't it.
Maybe if they win the Super Bowl. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah.
Look what happens when Bo's not around. Jeez.
I know. Fucking guy.
Okay, well, the Buccaneers waived a guy we've talked about a lot on this show, even though he hasn't been in Tampa forever, and that is Jaelon Darden, a player they moved up to select in the 4th round of the 2021 draft. Really talented athlete, receiver coming out of North Texas, the Mean Green. A bit of a sleeper. People were high on him once they, put on the tape. He was like the second most prolific receiver in college football, next to Devonta Smith that year. Things haven't worked out for Jaelon Darden, and I think their hopes for him to excel in that kick return game, punt return game, just haven't happened, to put it plainly. And he's actually been a lot better this year than last year. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting timing, like mid-season, because if you look at the numbers, I mean, he's actually above average as far as returners go. So a little curious about what their plan is here moving forward, but there is no doubt that like Darden has stood out more for his slight stature and his fear of contact and inability to keep his footing than he has any sort of game-breaking ability as a return man or a receiver. He hasn't gotten any reps as a receiver, and the few he has not taken advantage of, dating back more to last year. So no more Jaelon Darden.
I really, that's too bad. I mean, I hope for his sake, I hope he finds a good spot where he's obviously going to get more reps at receiver and more chances to actually impact the game. I do think he underwhelmed when he played, but also kind of a victim of circumstance with how many receivers the Bucs have. Not that they use them or anything like that. But yeah, that's too, I mean, 2021 draft, to release a guy that you moved up to pick. It's just, I just liked him, I guess. I just wanted to see him do well. It's not affecting the Bucs chances much this season, obviously. That was a guy that I really wanted to see pop off for them. So, onward and upwards, Jaelon.
Yeah, well said. KJ Britt, talking about that same draft, he has finished his stint on the IR and he's free to rejoin the roster at any time. That's nice for special teams. He's a really solid special teamer and a reserve linebacker, so certainly doesn't hurt to get some other bodies in the mix. Mm-hmm. And in a bit of a shocker, former Buccaneers assistant GM John Robinson was fired this week as the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. Bit of a surprise based on the team's, recent success and the fact that he was just extended within the last year. So really curious to know what's happened there. I mean, he was extended not long ago. So I have a Titans friend who's like a smart football fan, and we were talking, and he's not upset with the move at all. He thinks it was kind of due based on his regression as a drafter these past few years.
Right.
And I guess the AJ Brown, the timing though is just so peculiar because it's right after AJ Brown lit them up. And I'm kind of like, okay, you can't really pin that just on the GM. There's no way you go ahead with that move without blessing from ownership or them telling you they're not going to pay the guy, right?
I know, but it just looked so bad, right? And the Eagles are good, and AJ Brown has stepped in and just been a number one receiver for them right away, alongside Devontae, obviously, in Philly. But and there's the optics of Treylon Burks goes down in that game on Sunday, and then they just have no one else to throw the ball. Like, that game was over. Burks made an unbelievable catch in the end zone and somehow hung onto the ball, but it basically cost him his life. Like, that's how big the hit was, right? So that game was done. You just don't see the GM get fired in the middle of the season very often, right? And I have to assume Vrabel has so much clout and so much cachet with the organization that he was like, you know what? I don't want to have to keep winning games as a 6-point underdog. I would like to be a favorite in one of these games, right? And I have to assume that was a big part in Robinson finally getting let go. Obviously, the draft, not drafting as well, but that's leading to these Vrabel having to coach up inferior talent every single week, right? That gets to be a little bit much, I'm sure.
Yeah, and shout out to Mike Hart. I just realized Mike Hart too. We played basketball with him.
Thought it was Hart.
Yeah, and he was fully on the potential Vrabel rift, and I mean it makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad that you mentioned that as a potential reason. But
I mean, there's only so many things, right? Yeah. This is likely it.
Still strange timing though.
Still strange.
Like I don't know why extend him then if you had any uncertainty regarding his future as your GM, but.
And I know you just want to get it done, but now it's like, how many more transactions are really being made? But
yeah, it's a distraction,
season, right?
Feels like an unnecessary distraction.
Yeah, and you're not gonna. I don't think unless I miss this, I don't know if they've hired or promoted anyone to actually get started on, or not get started, but continue with draft prep, because that would be what a lot of departments would be working on now. I don't know. It just, all of it is strange timing.
For sure. And I would assume they've just have someone in there on an interim basis.
Yeah, that's
my assumption.
There hasn't been. I mean, if that snuck past us that the Titans hired a new GM, like, that's pretty bad. I don't think that's what happened. So yeah.
So let's get into this. The Buccaneers, in a miraculous comeback, like, defeat the New Orleans Saints. They sweep the Saints on the year. They win this game 17-6 with 3 seconds left on the clock. The Bucs now sit at 6-6 and appear to have a pretty solid hold on the NFC South division. In terms of this game, there's lots to discuss. I mean, it ended, as we've seen many times over the years, Tom Brady orchestrating an impressive comeback to overcome, though, what was otherwise, and this isn't like traditional Tom Brady, another disappointing offensive performance by his team. I think the defense just continues to keep them in games, and it kind of needs to be acknowledged. Aside from takeaways, they're not. If the Buccaneers were getting more takeaways, which is supposed to be a major staple or a goal of Todd Bowles, I mean, it is every defensive coordinator, but he really emphasizes bend but don't break, create a couple takeaways. If they were taking the ball away, I think they would be ranked way higher, and they're already ranked like as a top. I think. Well, it depends what metric you use, but they're in that top 10 in any metric defensively, and they're only giving up like less than 18 points a game, so they're doing their job and then some. But unfortunately, the defense playing so well seems to be fueling Todd Bowles' pigeon-hearted decisions on fourth down and plus territory.
God.
Yeah, because like it was, and this one frustrated me so much. You guys heard us on the last pod. We were all equally as mind-boggled, but really just incomprehensible for him for what happened in Cleveland, right? And how similar of a situation Bowles found himself in down the stretch at home versus the Saints, with the Bucs trailing by 13 points in the fourth quarter, plus territory. Like, if not, then when? Like that. So anyway, same scenario, same result. A fucking touchback with his rookie punter he's trusting to redeem himself, I guess, and pin them deep. Kicks a touchback, so they gain 20 yards of field position. And I mean, it took a goddamn miracle to overcome it. So I don't want people to brush it under the rug and be like, oh, well, because a lot of people are playing the whole, well, it worked out in the end. I'd criticize them if they didn't get the win. No, fuck that. That was stupid. They won in spite of that. You know what I'm saying? And then people are applauding him for later later when Tom Brady in their own end zone, or sorry, their own, what were they on? Like their own 35-yard line, 4th and 10, Brady wanted to go for it. They were showing it on the screen. He was kind of saying, no, we're staying out here. Went to a timeout. Bulls had overruled him. And I was glad that he overruled him there, to be honest. And I said that in the chat.
Yeah, that's completely. Those are like, I kind of saw that those were getting lumped in together a little bit on Twitter after the game, or even during the game when it was happening. It's like, okay, 4th and 7 on their 40, down 2 scores. Like, that is first of all, that's a no-brainer. The 4th and 10 on their 20 or whatever it was, I think it was their 20 or 25, actually. Yeah, okay, they probably still should have gone for it, but that one's more defensible than the other one, than the one in plus territory. Obviously, I listened to the press conference after, and Bulls gave some ridiculous answer regarding that one, like the one in their own end, Collin, because he's like, yeah, because if we go for it and don't get it and they kick a field goal, we're down 20-3. And it's like, well, I don't want to defend you, but you're not down 20-3, actually. Like, you're down 19-3. So it still is 2 scores, technically, right? So, like, I don't know if he was just trying to, I don't know. I don't even know what he was trying to do there. He was just wrong, first of all. If it was 17-3 at the time, and then a field goal makes it 20-3, then that is different. But that wasn't the case. Regardless, it's the one in plus territory that's just, I don't even know what to say. And the fact that it happened a week after the Cleveland debacle it's alarming. Like, to me,
it's like the football gods gave him a chance to redeem himself and prove that he's capable of change, because that was a no-brainer, just like the previous week.
In the exact situation, basically, like in the exact situation. And, hey, punter, stop kicking it through the end zone also. But that's separate. He never should have been on the field, obviously. But also in the press conference, he's like, there's 7 minutes. There's a lot of time on the clock. There's only a lot of time on the clock because Andy Dalton and Dennis Allen are on the other sideline. If they do anything right in that last portion of the game, then the Bucs are 5-7 coming off another ridiculous loss. They had 3 points in the first 57 minutes of the game. Like,
and speaking of that, sorry if I may.
No, please.
That first drive, they had a tremendous drive to open the game. I know you were playing basketball at that time, but
yes,
they drove the whole 75 plus yards. It was a phenomenal, methodical drive, really well done. And then they end up kicking a field goal from like the 3-yard line, 4-yard line. And I'm like, that's the same total they were looking at later in the game. And you could argue, well, they needed those points. Okay. It killed momentum. It absolutely killed the momentum. Just cutting the legs out from underneath yourself, in my opinion.
I've said this for years, and this was kind of before it became obvious statistically and analytically that you don't kick a field goal from the opposing team's 3-yard line. It's like New Orleans considers that a win. You know what I mean? That's a perfect drive. And the Bucs did everything right except score, obviously. And that's a win for New Orleans, only being down 3-0 after that. Take the points, blah, blah, blah. No. And then the Saints did it later in the game themselves. They kicked the field goal to make it 13-3 from the Tampa 2, which is just, it's mind-boggling. And it was just the ultimate pillow fight between terrible coaching decisions. And I actually wanted to ask you about that because I thought we would get into that terrible punt right away. But like Collin said, I was getting my ass lit up on the court, actually, for the first half. So I wanted to ask you about what the first half vibe was, because, like I said, I was following along on my phone. I see the long drive, thinking that's great. Knew they were going to kick a field goal. But how did the rest of the half play out from watching it?
Yeah, I mean, offensively, it was frustrating, man. It was same old story. You didn't miss much. And again, I hate to just blame it on that, but I have more to say in regards to that not going for it off that opening drive. I mean,
please.
I think it's more valuable, even if you don't get it, you fail to convert. The morale of showing that you have faith in them to go for it there and you want to step on their throat would almost alone be more valuable, not to mention the fact then this defense you're in love with, Todd Bowles, has them pinned back. It's Andy Dalton on the road in a divisional game. That is advantageous as well.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. Sorry, I know it'd be more interesting if we disagreed, but here's what I would say. The morale boost of going for it and showing your team that you actually trust them and that you want to score touchdowns and that you need to score touchdowns. That alone for me is enough to go for it. And so is the fact that New Orleans would be on their 3. That alone would have been enough to go for it. Combine the two and it's like a no-brainer. Oh, and also don't forget the possible outcome of actually scoring a touchdown. Right? Like let's add that, minor factor into the whole thing. It's just it's such an archaic way to think of taking the points and thinking that any drive that ends up with 3 is good. It's like, no, man, this has to be a touchdown. And you finally come out and have a great drive to start the game. You have a chance to go up 7 after getting the ball, and you just do that. It's just the wrong decision. So after all that, it's 3-0, whatever, same shit, right?
Totally. The 2 defensive head coaches couldn't have put on a more glaring display of overly conservative decisions for their team. Like, it's just, it's something we've talked about a lot. You asked what happened the rest of the game. Rashid Shaheed, he was primarily a kick return specialist. He's kind of, with Michael Thomas's injury, he's kind of moved into more of a role as like a big play threat, and he was all over the place, man. He was a headache for Jamel Dean. Big completion for him. I think he had a shit ton of yards throughout the game. So he ended up being a real factor. That speed, breakaway speed, something that I feel like Tampa kind of is missing right now. And then to me, what I noticed a lot was just the Buccaneers defensive line's inability to get on Andy Dalton's ass. Felt like he had all day to pass, and it really let him settle into a rhythm. Again, why this big play threat, this speedster, was able to have the time to get open. It's because Andy Dalton had the time to wait for him to get open. And, losing Shaq Barrett is a tough look for this group, and it's a lot on JTS's shoulders. And I don't want to like spoil what I'm going to get into, but he's one of the players I'll be discussing shortly here in terms of I'm going to cover who impressed me, who impressed, and who regressed or disappointed. So,
but then it's just like everything's related, right? Because the Bucs defense has played so well, but as soon as they don't get off the field on a 3rd down or don't pressure a mediocre quarterback into a tough play on a big, let's say a 3rd and 8 or whatever, then you're thinking, oh, great, they go down and score. That's one more possession that our offense has to score, and they just haven't proven that they've been able to do it, right? So I just have to feel like it's even more impressive what the Bucs defense is doing, to be honest, because they know they're hamstrung into having to play a perfect game, which, look, what is it, 18 points a game? They're basically, that's amazing. That's all you can ask for and more. And it's still, they need these miracles to win a game. Like a Tom Brady miracle to win. And once again, we'll get back into the 4th quarter, obviously, later, but I don't know. I feel bad for the defense, honestly. It's just not an easy way to play.
Some account tweeted out that the Bucs would be, how many games have we played? Would be 10-2 if they had scored an average or 22 points in their games. Average 30 last 2 years, pretty much. They'd be 10-2. So that's what I mean when I say the defense is doing their job. That's what we mean when we say that. It's like, you're right, man. The defense is like at a disadvantage compared to most teams. It's kind of like the Broncos, just maybe not quite as severe of an example, but pretty damn close.
No, it's pretty close, man.
Yeah,
it's pretty close. They've just the Tampa's just happened to win a couple more of these games than the Broncos have. But it just, there are so many 1-score games in this league. There's just not that much of a difference between on a given week between any 2 teams, right? Like, we've seen it, right? So 1-score games could be one decision, that one play, one incorrect use of a timeout, whatever it is at the level of the head coach. They have to nail it. They can't be okay at it. They have to be perfect at it, because that's how razor thin this league, like the margins are in this league. And, just looking at what Bowles has done, and as we discussed, the fact that he almost had a redo this week after the absolute calamity in Cleveland. It's unbelievable that they got it wrong again, and even more unbelievable that they won the fucking game, right?
I was fuming. I was livid. Yeah. I was losing my mind, honestly. Like, I was at my wit's end. If they didn't win this game, I don't know. I don't even know what I would have done.
Yeah.
So it took a miracle for them to win, and it took a miracle for me to not break something expensive in my house.
So okay,
just
so
it probably would have been a bowl that I would have
yeah,
broken.
yeah, yeah. Todd's, if anyone's,
Todd's
yeah,
bowls.
yeah, Todd's bowl. So it's 10-3 at the half, right? New Orleans has a chance to kind of to really put the game out of reach. They kick a 21-yard field goal, 4th and 2 from the Tampa 3, and a 29-yard field goal, 4th and 2 from the Tampa 11. If either of those are scores, then the game's over, right? Because it's a 3-possession lead. There's no way, right? So all the fortuitous stuff. We haven't even talked about the Mark Ingram play yet, or
What a
what else?
blessing! What a blessing!
When you were watching, did you realize it? Like, because
Okay, so I was
didn't mention it.
Yeah, I was so blinded by my own like frustration. I certainly noticed it, but and thought it was fucked. But I was just so excited that the Bucs were gonna get the ball back. So
Yeah.
so I didn't have time to properly process how absurd of a scenario that was. And you and Bo were talking in the chat. I'm with you. No matter how hurt you are, just fucking fall forward. It's right there. Clearly he must have been unaware of the situation. I mean, I respect him for apologizing. It's a lapse of judgment more than anything else. He was, you understand a guy to be concerned about his body and pulling up right away, whatever it is, his knee, which he was clearly hurt on earlier.
Yeah.
So a really strange decision to have him in the game at all. You happen to, a guy named Alvin Kamara? Because you wouldn't have if this is your first time watching the Saints. You probably wouldn't even know who he was after the game.
Oh my
which
God,
was shocking. Just the whole time, I couldn't believe how little he was used.
And isn't that wild? Because I know betting against the Saints, the last guy I ever want to see with the ball is Kamara, right?
Yeah.
He is so scary. Just has that kind of like Chris Johnson back with the Titan, can just take it to the house at any time he touches the ball, right? He's just so sick. But I don't know. Anyway, I guess he hasn't had the same year as he usually does. But still, the Ingram thing, I know I was trying to be diplomatic about it actually when we were talking about it in the chat, and I couldn't even really do it because you go out of bounds, that's bad, stops the clock. You don't get the first down, well, that's obviously bad because that's 3 more plays, and then to exacerbate the problem that Ingram caused by not getting the first down or staying in bounds, even they throw a slant, They throw a contested slant on 3rd in a yard, and
great play by Carlton Davis.
Great play by Carlton Davis, but the risk reward of not having the clock continuing to move there is just so unbelievably not there. Maybe 3rd and 3.5 or something. Okay, but to run that slant, have the clock stop, and then punt it away is malpractice. It's unbelievable. Yeah. If anything, run the ball twice, right, and get a first down. Go for it on 4th down and try to end the game. But to give him the ball back, I will give the Saints this. Obviously, the Bucs haven't done shit on offense. They scored 3 points on the first drive, and they hadn't scored since then. So maybe they weren't even worried about it. They're just thinking, all right, punt it away, make them go down, make them, go 80 yards or something twice to beat you. But was there, as bad as the Bucs had looked, was there ever a doubt that the Bucs were going to score on that drive to make it 16-10? I had no doubt that they were going to go down and score on that one. I wasn't sure they were going to come back and get the second one, but I knew you knew they were going to score there because even Leftwich has to pick up the pace in that situation when you're down by 13 with 5 minutes left. Even Leftwich, has to do it. So, and we know that the Bucs have the best hurry up offense in the league. So I was quite confident they were going to score there. And I don't know, just the Saints, what a big help that incompetence was for Tampa, or else we're not talking about a win tonight.
For sure, man. And they were owed a little bit on the incompetence scale just based on what Todd Bowles has done to them recently. So
I guess
leave it to another defensive-minded head coach to provide that, I guess.
But yeah, it's just, I don't even want to harp on the defensive-minded as much as just the poor decision-making, although it does seem to be like there's a correlation. But
no, you're right. That's irrelevant. It's just another head coach.
Yeah, I know, but I know what you're saying. But Nathaniel Hackett, offensive coach, he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. But I know, I hear you. So I don't know where you want to go from there.
I mean, it is incredible how effective the Bucs have been in these 2-minute drive scenarios, especially towards the end of the game. Not surprising with Tom Brady, and you got to think that's naturally a time when he's going to have way more control over what plays are being called. And but the one thing people are failing to recognize as well, though, is teams are in a prevent defense. So it becomes
Of
it's not
course.
it's not like you can come out off the opening kick and just go no huddle the whole fucking game. It's just not sustainable. That said, though, they need to improve their tempo, and Byron Leftwich got to figure some shit out. My God, man, like
It's so bad, dude.
yeah,
It's so bad.
yeah, he's not getting fired this season. I don't think. Scott Reynolds is really plugged in for Pewter Report. He's pretty confident that that's going to ride out this year, but he doesn't expect him to be brought back next year. We'll see, barring something miraculous.
Sorry, is that Leftwich or Bowles?
Leftwich.
Okay.
Leftwich. He expects Bowles to be secure. And again, Scott knows what he's talking about. So
that is absolutely boggling to me. I don't know what ownership and what management could be possibly watching to see that, to actually keep him around. I was talking about this with a buddy, and we've discussed this as well. Like, what the hell goes on in interviews? And I'm not saying that tongue in cheek or facetiously. Like, I literally want to know what these coaches get asked. I was talking to my buddy. I guess he was listening to, I think, Big Cat and PFT commenter, pardon my take, guys, had Kevin O'Connell on, like the Vikings head coach, and they just gave him a handful of situations. Shout out to my buddy Mike Fossard for telling me, alerting me of this. And they were just giving him situations like, okay, 4th and 6 from their 42, down 11. What do you do? And just stuff like that. Just peppering him, and just, why isn't that the whole interview?
It's cool that he was willing to do that on a podcast.
Exactly.
Just expose himself. Like, be like, I'm so confident this shit's ingrained in my brain. Like, come on.
Well, this is the job. This would be like someone asking you, hey, what do you do in this situation at your job? You're going to know the answer because that's what you should know, right? So I thought that was fascinating, and it's just the complete opposite of what so many interviews or coaching searches must be like, because Bowles has made decision after decision just completely wrong, just objectively wrong. And
he has 2 weeks in a row. He also brings a lot of value to the team with how he calls the defense. And I don't even want to talk about him or the coaching anymore. I do want to move on and talk about some of the players, but I'm just saying, big picture, that is something to consider. But anyway,
fair enough.
In terms of the players who impressed, I've picked 3 names for each side of the ball, or sorry, not for each side of the ball, for who impressed and who didn't. Keanu Neal, man, him and Logan Ryan were 2 free agent veteran acquisitions. Keanu Neal was converted to linebacker in Dallas, but formerly all pro caliber safety for the Atlanta Falcons. He tore his Achilles right in his prime and had a lot of trouble coming back from that. Anyway, those 2 guys were thrust into a starting role in this game with the Bucs down Mike Edwards and Antoine Winfield Jr. So that's an injury situation that wasn't talked about too much. Major concern coming in. And man, Keanu Neal, first of all, Logan Ryan, I thought looked solid, as I've been impressed with him all year. But Keanu Neal was a fucking man on a mission. It reminded me of Jordan Whitehead. I haven't, last year, he was throwing his weight around all game. He is a thumper. And boy, did he have a big play down the stretch on that 3rd and long, Taysom Hill. He took out Jamel Dean in the process, but he popped that ball out of there. And man, was that they don't win that game without him making that play.
That's it. That's it. And, say what you want about Taysom Hill. Maybe if that's a real tight end, he makes that play. But I don't know. He tried to come down with it, and it looked like he did. I thought Neal just was a perfectly placed and timed hit. And, a lot of people aren't making that play after getting hit like that over the middle. What a throw by Dalton, by the way.
Incredible throw.
Absolutely incredible.
That throw was unbelievable. Through three defenders, just dropped it in the bucket. Really impressive.
Hey, Neal's play gave him a shot. That was it. He had to do it. That was huge.
Yeah, so he's filled in nice, man. He had a sack in Cleveland, almost had 2 actually, should have had 2. So that was good. Levante David, 12 tackles and a sack. I mean, it didn't really happen the way you would expect. I'd expect it to happen against the Saints because he'd be matched up with Kamara catching a ton of balls, but that wasn't how it happened. He was all over the place. I retweeted Mina Kimes, kind of took notice herself, and tweeted out a little clip of him just showing how good he is at changing direction and closing on a play despite his age. And I simply said, our king, because folks in Tampa know Levante is our king, and he deserves some love here and there. We're just so accustomed to his consistency and his effectiveness as, against the run, against the pass, as a leader on that defense. He needs his flowers from time to time. So here they are. And Josh fucking Wells. Shout out to Josh Capo, man. He at a point defended Josh Wells, and I've been particularly critical of Josh Wells and what he's shown us in the times he's been on the field. That could change real quick coming up against Nick Bosa. But for now, he deserves some serious props. He did a phenomenal job against Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan had 1 tackle, no sacks. He had a couple batted balls, but I thought Josh Wells was fantastic filling in for Tristan Wirfs. Exceeded my expectations by a mile. Like, he did my game ball. And then I think really Robert Hainsey has quietly been rock fucking solid filling in for Ryan Jensen. Little rough start at the start, but as soon as they got rid of Luke Gadecki out of that starting lineup, you really got to see that Hainsey was, I think, maybe more of a victim of instability to his left side than anything else, because he's looked really good and he's grading out quite high as well. He's in like the top third of centers in the league. So first time ever playing center in the NFL. Really impressive. And then the same goes for Nick Leverett at left guard, who filled in for Gadecki, and then Shaq Mason, the right guard. So just ultimately what I'm saying is the O-line sans Donovan Smith. Everyone except fucking Donovan Smith, who's supposed to be the veteran on this team. Guy's got like 6 penalties in the last 2 games. Like, probably oh my God. The last 3 games have been a disaster for Donovan Smith. And that's a guy who I was like so like happy to praise over the last couple seasons, including the start of this year when he came back from injury. I was hyped up. But it's really tough to see him regress, which is happening before our very eyes.
Oh, man,
and, can't have it. Dumbass mental mistakes, man. Can't have it. That hold, he negated a game-winning touchdown pass to Chris Godwin. It was a ridiculous hold. Didn't need to be done.
No.
Tough look.
And like, Brady's getting the ball out quick there. And also, what an absolute dart, by the way. That, like, just super unfortunate that doesn't go down in the books as a touchdown, because it was to Godwin, who I love. But what a throw by Brady. Yeah. But
incredible
Smith,
throw.
Like, hey, man. Hey, you can't reach across with your right hand and grab someone's shoulder pad and pull. It's just straight up not allowed. Can't do it. They're going to see it because you're huge. I mean, honestly, he might be as relieved as anyone in that building that they won the game, right? Because, oh man, that was a tough penalty.
I don't know. It feels like he doesn't even fucking care, man. That's what used to piss me off about Donovan Smith. But you would hope he was feeling relieved from that situation. Anyway, well, I'm not trying to like. No one has taken as much shit over their career in Tampa as Donovan Smith has since he was drafted. So I want to just hope he's going to kind of revert to the mean here, meet somewhere in the middle from over the last 2 seasons and his first, 5 in the league. But because when he's playing well, the sample size of late calls him, a well above average left tackle. So we need that play from him with these other guys around him banged up and the youth around him. He's got to lead by example. Now,
and especially I'm just going to say, especially with how well you were describing how well the rest of the offensive line played. That's great. You need the left tackle to be good. You need the left tackle to be there. So as promising as all that is, Hainsey, and the rest of the line that you mentioned, hey Donovan, you got to be good too. You got to be right with them. So hopefully they get that cleared up for a pretty good defense in the Niners coming up. So
yeah. Now that's who impressed, who regressed, or at least disappointed. I mentioned him earlier. JTS, Joe Tryon Shoyinka. Just not enough pressure on Dalton, and he had such a clean pocket all night, as I mentioned. Obviously, this responsibility doesn't fall squarely on the shoulders of JTS. But as I said again, with no Shaq Barrett, the Bucs are going to need him to get home at least once in a while. And I thought this would have been a good time for him to do it, but it was just a little too cushy. And, when you're dealing with injuries in your secondary, especially, I mean, you're going to try and get pressure with 4. You're going to try and get home with 4. so that you can have those guys back there in the secondary still. You're not having to bring them out of there. So shout out Todd Bowles, though. They had one amazing blitz in the first half where they lined up. He had Levante David and Devin White as down linemen. So the line was just full of guys, linebackers, and then he dropped Vita Vea as the sole linebacker. I haven't seen that done, and it was super cool. They got a sack. You got to watch Vita Vea get a running start. Really cool play that resulted in a sack. So there you go. Something positive about Todd Bowles. Russell Gage, back from injury. This is a $10 million a year guy. And I mean, it's been a massive disappointment so far, and I hate to harp on him because of injuries, but we got to see something from him, and we got to see it in a hurry, and again, it kind of feels like down the field, the only reliable target Brady has right now throughout the game is Chris Godwin. I mean, Evans is getting open. I'm not worried about Mike. Mike's doing his thing still for the most part. I will say, though, on that PI he drew, I thought he still could have laid out for the fucking ball and gave it a chance.
I did too.
Like, no one was really talking about that.
I thought he kind of made a decision that it was going to be better to try to sell the pass interference. That's what I was maybe giving the benefit of the doubt, but
100% that's what happened. No doubt. And maybe he wouldn't have got the call if he didn't. He's a vet. It's just kind of tough to see because I was like, well, shit, man. Like maybe you get.
I know.
I don't know.
I kind of thought he could have come back to the ball and just scored anyway, but I agree. And Julio made a nice play. Made a big catch up the sideline on the last drive. Obviously,
looked like Velociraptor claws on his fucking hands on that play. He just picked that. It was beautiful. I'm feeling way more optimistic about what Julio Jones could bring us down the stretch here compared to what I've seen from Russell Gage. So, but as I've said, between the two of them,
Scotty Miller even.
Scotty with a huge catch over the middle, dirty catch, man.
Yeah, third down.
Yeah, I think it was Orlovsky or Baldinger or someone profiled that play on Twitter, just chopped it up, and like I think it was Orlovsky. It was a nasty release to open that slant up. He had nothing there. There was no one else open. Brady obviously fit it through a keyhole, but he hung in there. He took it and he took the hit, and it couldn't have been at a better time. So shout out Scotty Miller, man. And I was just gonna say, I wonder if he's gonna be the guy filling in now, returning punts as well. So he's gonna be potentially involved.
Very possible.
This team moving forward a little more.
So
fastest guy in the team.
Before that third down, I had queued up in our chat. Do you think they go for this fourth down? Joking because obviously they had to, but Bulls might have still tried to take the points or maybe even punt it. But luckily they got the third down. I didn't get to fire off that really funny joke. So, hey, that was a big play by Miller. If you have Godwin, Evans, Jones, and Miller, if those four are going, I feel pretty good. And especially with Rachaad White now too. I mean, hey, if those guys can all be clicking at the same time, and I know it's a big ask. Evans hasn't had the best year. Julio's always a hamstring away, and we've definitely seen some inconsistency from Scotty Miller in both his production and usage, but I like them. I still like the guys. You know what I mean? It's just
I'm not about to abandon the fact that I think they have an elite receiving corps. Absolutely not. I will not abandon that. It's pretty much an objective fact.
I
well said, Scotty. And I mentioned Scotty Miller is the fastest on the team. Another guy who disappointed me, maybe would take exception to that, and that's rookie Zion McCollum. I feel bad for this one, but I can't lie. McCollum just looked lost playing in the nickel Monday night, and in his defense, it's not a position he was drafted to play. He's a rookie, nor is it a position I believe he has ever played. But regardless, he got exposed. And I referenced the speed thing because I'm just looking it up right now. His RAS scores, so relative athletic scores. He was a 10 RAS out of a possible 10. So that between 1987 and 2022, he ranks number 1 out of just under 2,000 cornerbacks evaluated athletically. That's how athletic this kid is. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Fucked. And they got him in the 5th round. So just after Tariq Woolen. And those two guys were looked at very similarly just because they were raw from small schools. Tariq Woolen from UTSA, Texas San Antonio, and Zion McCollum from Sam Houston State. So bit of projects. Anyway, I kind of feel bad because he got thrown into playing the nickel spot. which would be really hard for a rookie, but he was slipping all over the place and they were going at him. So that was tough. I'd like to see more from him, but I'm certainly not giving up on him or anything of the sort. But
yeah,
anyway,
totally
that's
fair.
who impressed. That's who impressed. That's who regressed. That's where we're at. Enough about that game, because now the Bucs are 6-6. As it stands currently, they would be facing off with the Dallas Cowboys, hosting the Dallas Cowboys in a playoff game. And I mean, I still believe you're gonna rip me up for this, but I like that we got a little time to sort shit out, because it feels like we're just gonna walk into the playoffs. And if this team, talking about those receivers, talking about how good the defense is, if they can somehow figure their shit out, they have the talent still. They do. And if they get Wirfs back, if they even get a Ryan Jensen back, which actually would require some further discussion, because I don't know what that would do to throw off the cohesion in the middle, but obviously you get him right back in if you can play. But anyway, the point is, they have a real test ahead of them now. They're traveling across the country to play the San Francisco 49ers. There is no doubt the 49ers have a potent defense, arguably the league's best. Joey Bosa and Fred Warner, two of the best in the league on either side of the ball, just tremendous superstar talent. And they create a major headache for any opposing offense, no matter how good they are. And I mean, that complicates things, because the Bucs offense hasn't been very good at all.
Oh my God. No. And just like we all thought when the season started, Brock Purdy would be a 3.5-point favorite over Tom Brady. That was, in the stars on draft night when Purdy was the last person selected in the entire draft. We knew that he would be hanging 3 and a hook against the greatest quarterback of all time. No, but seriously, interesting spot. The Niners are really good. Purdy looked good when he came in against the Dolphins this past Sunday. Considering that their quarterback has really just been kind of a point guard, shuttling the ball to different guys, getting people open, or, just trying to distribute between Trey Lance and Jimmy G the last few years, Purdy feels like it's like he could do that, which is, I've kind of pushed back against how good Kyle Shanahan is. Not that I don't think he's good. I think he's really good, but people calling him a genius is like, well, he's certainly not a fucking genius, but he's a really good play caller. And he definitely gets the most out of his guys in most situations. So, Brock Purdy having to go up against this Bucs defense, which is, definitely an upgrade from the Dolphins defense that he just played against, right, is an interesting matchup for his first start, and for the Bucs to travel across the country on a short-ish week, right? So I don't know. I don't feel great about it, to be completely honest, for Tampa. Colin, you were talking about some ifs, if they get it all sorted out, if and when Wirfs gets back in the lineup. That's all positive. I'm just, we've seen it for 12 games now. Now, of course, they're going to go in there, somehow win 35-17 and look like Super Bowl front runners, right? So I don't know what the hell goes on in this league week to week. I just legitimately kind of, as much as I can't stay and watch them, I want to watch this game.
Yeah. So if there's ever a time for Todd Bowles to be like, okay, motherfuckers, this is why I'm here. This is why you need me. It's this kind of game. And as a defensive coordinator, I think he's going to draw up some shit. And I think he's going to make life a little hard for this rookie quarterback. I don't know. Or wait, rookie? No, Purdy.
Yeah. Rookie. Yeah.
This year's Mr. Irrelevant. Pardon me. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I do. And I think San Fran, people are like, I get it, man. I get it. They brought in McCaffrey. They got the skill positions on offense covered. They have the best left tackle in football, 2 of the best defensive players in football. And I know you're right. You have kind of pushed back a little bit on the Shanahan shit. I'm a fanboy. I think he designs plays, and his offensive scheme is just so impressive that he's able to have people talk about his team as a legit Super Bowl contender. Or he took with Jimmy G to the Super Bowl. I just think he's a big reason why Jimmy G's look good. And I think he can do it with almost anyone at quarterback.
Yeah.
I still think they're a little overrated right now. I think everyone is on their D. And I'm looking back here. They lost to the Bears, 19-10 to the Bears. They lost to the Broncos. They lost to the Falcons by 14 points. So they're certainly capable. Like, they're not super consistent. Granted, this is earlier in the year, and they've certainly found their rhythm of late, winning 4 in a row against some quality opponents. But I just want to say, I think, if there is a game for Todd Bowles to kind of have an imprint and really get after this Purdy kid, this might be it. And Tom Brady, going back to, his home, maybe his future team. Hope not, but who knows? I don't know, man.
Don't put that out there. Don't put that out into the world. Yeah, I don't know. Fuck.
The thing that scares the shit out of me is the offensive line in this game, because it's a whole nother beast from the Saints, and Donovan Smith playing how he is. I mean, Josh Wells in there at right tackle trying to handle Nick Bosa. That scares the shit out of me. But they'll have to find a way to handle that and get some help in there for Josh Wells. And if the middle can hold up, I don't know. I think the Bucs have a chance, man. I really do. We'll see what I do with my score prediction. I'm not ready to make one yet, but
no, that's fine.
You can catch those on bucsgameday.com. Staff score predictions come out shortly before, day or two before the game.
For sure they have a chance, because why not? But to think that we're going to see anything different, I think we're just fooling ourselves at this point. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's going to be the same stuff, super conservative, limited innovation on offense, and just questionable decision making. For Bulls' best case scenario is if they're up 17 in the fourth, so he doesn't have to make a big decision, because obviously he's shown that he can't do it. I'm not trying to harp on it, but it's a big part of the season, and it's a big reason why they are 6-6. And they won that game against the Saints on Monday. Even if they lost, they still would have been in first place in that fucking absolute dumpster fire of a division. So, tangibly, it probably wasn't a huge difference in their playoff odds or anything, but it's obviously better to win the game or not. But I didn't leave that game being enthused or thinking anything different about the Bucs. I just didn't.
Nor should you.
Yeah. So win or loss in that game was almost irrelevant to me. I'd rather have them lost, but seeing them try some more things and, showing a backbone. And maybe San Fran is overrated. That's fair, but you can't back your way. I don't think you can back your way into a win against them, right? Like, you can't just luck your way into a win again. You're gonna have to go out there and play and actually beat them. So
yeah, I think I feel like the defense is due for a couple turnovers here, not just like a couple splash plays and to potentially put up some points. I don't know why I got that feeling. Like, we're going to see 2 fucking turnovers, whether an interception and a fumble recovery, 2 interceptions. I don't know. 2 turnovers versus Brock Purdy. Book it. And that could mean Tom Brady just has to do enough.
And you know what? That's fair. And like you said, the lack of takeaways has been the only thing missing from this defensive performance so far, basically. And that there's obviously a luck factor to turnovers, right? So maybe that regresses to the mean and they find 1 or 2 in a big spot, especially against a young quarterback like this who hasn't seen a defense of this caliber. So, that might be a pretty prescient projection by you here. Boom. We'll see. And that would be huge. It'd be nice to have a couple short fields, right? Like, 3 and outs are great. Obviously, that's huge. But you make a great stop, but they punt it down to your 22. That's still a big ask for this offense to go 80 yards, right? So, if there was ever a time to give them a couple short fields and maybe get a lead early against a good team, this would be a great place to start and show something. I'm just like not going to get fooled again. I'm not.
Yeah. No more betting on them, Scotty. No more picking them.
No shit. No.
That. Although plus 3.5, I don't know.
Don't even, not even looking at it. Have it like X'd out on my phone somehow. It's like, yeah, it's not happening.
And like, I mean, the Bucs, I want to say the Bucs need to get one of these next 2 games, because they got at San Fran and then they got Cincy coming to town, and Cincy's really hitting their stride now.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think the Buccaneers could conceivably still win the NFC South if they don't. But I think they need to, for themselves, and to start getting on the right path here to win one of these games and prove to themselves, if not everyone else watching, that they can knock off a quality opponent. So
for sure, that's
and I think this is almost a better opportunity than Cincy. I don't know. Cincy looks fucking good right now, man.
It's such a weird position they're in where the results are almost irrelevant. It's like they're going to win this division, right? The rest of the division keeps making huge mistakes. Like, Atlanta had 2 very winnable games these last 2 weeks. They could have, really put some pressure on them. But I agree, it's more for them to see themselves do it against a good team and to get a good win and to play a complete 4 quarters and not need a miracle at the end would be so encouraging, because we just haven't seen it. We just haven't seen it at all this year, right? So, yeah, I don't want to say the results don't matter, but at this point, they're in such a unique spot in this division. It's kind of like, all right, man, we know what's going to happen. They're going to somehow host this playoff game, but can anything encouraging at all would be huge. And hey, San Fran and Cincy are probably 2 of the 5 best, power rated teams in the whole league, right? So pretty big stretch here. Pretty big stretch for sure.
Yeah, if they manage to win both somehow, I'll have a Josh Wells jersey on for the next podcast. I'll tell you that.
Hey, if they manage to win both and show some signs of innovation or change or anything, then okay, great. But I'm just not confident in it. I'm not at all. Like, I think they're gonna get rolled. I think they're gonna get rolled this week.
Whoa. Okay. Well, we disagree. I think they're gonna hang tough. Shocker.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
The objective guy doesn't believe it.
I'm so I can't. I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just, how many points do you think they're going to score?
Like I said, I think the defense is going to put. I think they win like 16-13 or some shit.
Okay. Well, maybe, and maybe that's how they have to win the game. But that sounds painful. Like,
well,
16.
hey, I would take whatever. Well,
I know,
like, probably the best defense in football. So if there was ever a time to excuse them for putting up 16 and being a game like that, whoa.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I shouldn't
say I think they're going to get rolled. Likely, it's a lower scoring game with longer possessions, right? With both teams trying to run the ball and like longer drives and kicking field goals and stuff like that. So just by the nature of a lower scoring game, they probably don't get blown out. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think Todd Bowles is going to dial some shit up and make Brock Purdy's day real difficult. And I think this Bucs defense is capable of executing it. So, anyway, that's what I'll be looking for and hoping for this Sunday. Hopefully we get a good game so I can keep my boy Scott here willing to watch Buccaneers games and continue to cover the team with a weekly podcast. But I'm gonna hold him to it, folks. I'm gonna make him do it for you, for me,
for
the Bucs. So on that note, Scotty, if you don't have anything else to add, I think it's a great time to put a bow on it. I want to thank anyone who joined us live. Wherever you're listening to us, please rate and review the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube at Bucs Banter. We appreciate it a ton. And we'll be on the air again next week to break down what is hopefully a big win against the San Francisco 49ers. The only benefit of losing, if they lose, is that I won't have to purchase a Josh Wells jersey because they won't have a chance of winning 2 in a row. On that note, go Bucs. Catch you later. Thanks, folks.